It was just another humid mornings, deep in the heart of the South American wetlands. The fog hovered low above the ground, curling lazily around the trees, and the usual sounds of chirping birds and distant monkey calls echoed softly through the thick jungle. But something was different that day. Something felt wrong. Beneath the surface of calm waters and rustling leaves, a silent crisis was brewing, one that would soon pull an unlikely group of heroes into a life-or-death race against time. This is the story of a capybara family and the brave humans who refused to let them suffer in silence. The capybara family, gentle, shy, and incredibly social creatures, had always called the dense swamps near the riverbank their home. With soft brown fur, big round eyes, and a peaceful presence, these animals were like the gentle giants of the rodent world. Parents, siblings, and even distant cousins all lived together, moving as one, munching on grass, and soaking in muddy waters under the sun. But now, things were falling apart. The warning signs had started subtly. One of the younger capybaras began scratching excessively. Another started lagging behind the group, acting sluggish. At first, the family brushed it off as nothing unusual, maybe just a few fleas, or a long day in the heat. But then came the patches of missing fur, the crusted skin, the weight loss, and soon the suffering spread like wildfire. From the oldest matriarch to the tiniest pups, the entire capybara family was under siege, invaded by millions of parasitic mites, lice, and ticks. It wasn't just discomfort. This was a slow, agonizing attack on their health, their lives, and they had no way to fight back. What made it worse? These wetlands were remote, far away from bustling towns or regular veterinary care. The chances of human help were slim, but fate has a strange way of stepping in when things get desperate. Enter Maya and Leo, two wildlife rescuers who had dedicated their lives to helping animals most people would never even notice. Maya, a soft-spoken biologist with a deep love for capybaras, had been studying their social behaviors for years. Leo, a rugged field medic with hands like sandpaper, but a heart as soft as marshmallow, had patched up everything from jaguars to sloths. They'd seen animals in bad shape before, but nothing prepared them for the call they got from a local farmer. "There's something wrong with the big rats down by the river," the farmer said. "They're falling apart. They look sick, real sick. Can you come look?" Within hours, Maya and Leo packed up their gear: nets, portable cages, antiseptic washes, medications, and what little anti-parasitic treatment they had left, and drove straight into the heart of the swamp. They didn't know what they were walking into. They only knew that time was running out. As they arrived, the smell hit them first, a sharp, sour stench of infection and decay. Then the silence. No splashes, no soft grunts, just stillness. They moved carefully, their boots sinking into wet earth, eyes scanning every shadow, and then they saw them. A group of capybaras, huddled together under a bush, barely moving. Their eyes were sunken, fur falling off in clumps, skin raw and bleeding in places. Flies swarmed around them. The biggest one, probably the father, lifted his head weakly. His breath labored. It was like something out of a nightmare. But for Maya and Leo, it was more than just a mission. It was personal. Maya stood frozen for a moment, her eyes locked on the shimmering line in the water. It wasn't just some harmless sheen. It carried a strong chemical smell, sharp and artificial, something that had no place in a natural swamp. Her heart sank. The capybaras were only just starting to recover, their fragile bodies still fighting off the damage done by the parasites. If this water was contaminated, it could undo everything. Worse, It could be fatal. Leo saw the panic in her face. He didn't say anything at first. He just walked over, crouched, and dipped a test strip into the water. They always carried them, just in case. Within seconds, the strip turned dark brown. Pesticides, he muttered. Heavy ones. The swamp, it turned out, bordered several large farms. While some farmers used natural methods, others had recently switched to harsh chemical sprays, cheap and fast. During the last heavy rain, runoff from one of these farms must have flowed into the water channels that fed into the wetland. It wasn't just a capybara problem anymore. Birds, fish, frogs, everything in this ecosystem was at risk. But for Maya and Leo, the capybaras were their first responsibility. They had to act fast. Maya and Leo called in their friend Carla, a local environmental scientist who had experience dealing with pollution cases. She was tough, sharp-witted, and knew the right people to pressure. "I'll handle the red tape," she told them. "You just keep those capybaras alive." As Carla investigated the source of the contamination, Maya and Leo moved the capybara family to a safer area upstream. But it wasn't ideal. The new location was dry, unfamiliar, and lacked natural shelter. The capybaras were visibly stressed. Some stopped eating. One of the older males tried to wander back to the original swamp. Confused and anxious, Maya stayed up night after night, hand-feeding the smallest pup, which they'd started calling Coco. He was still weak from the parasites, and now the stress of relocation was taking a toll. Leo spent his days building makeshift shade and water pools, using tarps and buckets. They weren't just rescuers anymore. They had become the family's entire support system. Meanwhile, Carla was hitting walls. The farms denied wrongdoing. The local authorities weren't rushing to get involved. Even worse, the pesticide was one of those grey area chemicals, not banned, but highly controversial. Still, Carla kept digging. One night, as Maya was sitting beside Coco, gently stroking his back, Leo walked over and sat next to her. "We might lose him," he said softly, trying not to let it show on his face. Maya nodded, tears gathering. In her eyes, they'd done everything right, but sometimes that wasn't enough. And then the rain came. At first, it seemed like a blessing. Cool, refreshing rain after days of dry, tense heat. But it quickly turned into a downpour. The temporary shelter collapsed. The dirt paths became rivers of mud. Their equipment got soaked. And worst of all, the contaminated swamp water started rising again, moving closer to their safe zone. It was chaos. They had to act fast. With only hours before the polluted water would reach their camp, Maya, Leo, and Carla made a decision: relocate again, deeper into the forest, away from all known waterways, at least until they could confirm the contamination had cleared. But moving capybaras wasn't easy, especially not a full family of them. Already traumatized, some still sick. They divided into teams. Maya and Carla prepared the route. Leo and a few local volunteers began gently guiding the animals into carriers and crates. It was pouring rain, the ground was unstable, and every step felt like walking through quicksand. That's when the unexpected happened. One of the capybaras bolted. It was the matriarch, the oldest female. Maya froze, her breath caught in her throat. The rain pattered against the leaves above her like 1,000 tiny drums. The capybara still stood in front of her, unmoving, ears twitching, and in the shadows just beyond them, something shifted, slow, deliberate. She couldn't make out what it was, only that it was big and getting closer. She didn't have time to panic. Her instincts kicked in. Maya slowly backed up, keeping her eyes locked on the creature behind the trees. She picked up a stick, not for defense, but to make noise, to seem larger. "We're not here to hurt anyone," she said under her breath, unsure if it was for the capybara herself or whatever was out there. For a long moment, the only response was the rain. Then with a final rustle,